I'm really excited for our guest today on the Wild Conversation podcast, Jeffrey Hunter, the CEO, founder, and chairperson of Storyteller Overland. And this is particularly relevant and personal for me because my wife and I decided a couple years to buy a Storyteller Overland. And this is it behind me. It's a Storyteller Stealth. I just want to give you a quick tour because I know there's a lot of people out there that are like curious about vans. I get so many questions about this. By the way, it's like driving a McLaren around town. Like I think people have more, they ask me about my van more than anything else. I had one guy say to me recently, he goes, "Is that as cool as it is?" That was one comment. Another guy came up to me and he had 5 kids with him and his wife. And he walks up to me outside of a burger place and he goes, "I want one of those for my family." I'm like, "You're never going to fit your family in here." But this has been awesome. And one of the reasons it was important to me to look at a storyteller in the beginning, because there's lots of different van builders out there, but this was a company that came with a reputation and a brand quality and build quality that was really important. And you realize how important this is when you own one of these things. Now, of course, if you get one of these, you start to modify. It's just what you do. Like, you can't help yourself. It's what I do. My friends, my nickname is Bobby or Bad Bobby, and so my friends say you Bobbyized it. And so some of you who know what you're talking about with vans know that I put 285s on here. Yes, the adaptive cruise still works. I put Al Talon wheels on there. Just little things. It comes awesome, but these are just little things that we're personalizing it. People have had questions about how we carry skis, and this is the way we do it. We just put a Yakima rack on the ladder and off you go. One of the coolest things, you all, is the deck on top. It's like having this amazing, it's like having a $5 million home with this amazing deck and view, but it gets to travel with you, and it's not $5 million. So it's been amazing. I love the stealthy little axe up there on top, though, if you caught that at all. And then I did a few other kinds of things about it, and I'm going to get to the storyteller piece of this. John from Owl will know, like, I copied a design function and just got some stuff to stick on here with our logo there. And then I did beastify it a bit. You got to see the hood of this thing with a little bit of striping. It was fun to do. But it's just been an amazing thing, an adventure for my wife and me to travel around and do all this. And it's just, I could go on and on about the features, but I want to show you a couple things about this. First of all, is we have this criteria for how stickers get added, and that's just for when we get to choose one and put a sticker on here, but this is an indication of some of the places we've been. And by the way, if these things are dirty, it's a good sign. It means you're using the thing. But the fridge, absolutely critical. Starlink has been absolutely critical because I work on the road and do podcasting from the road as well. And let me just show you a couple of things and invite you into this mobile moving adventure that is Storyteller Stealth. So a couple of things. One is the Groove Lounge has been absolutely critical. It's a back seat, but it turns into 3 or 4 other things. A place for someone else to sleep has been critical, but it also creates more seating. It's been amazing. One of the things you have to have, at least we have to have, is a microwave. This thing has a microwave and power and water and all those things. One of the other pieces that has been so critical for me is I did not want to drive around town with a bathroom. That just made me feel like I was driving an RV. And this is my adventure vehicle and my daily drivers. So there's no like official bathroom, but there is, because it's what's called a halo shower. And so this is a halo shower that pops out of the cabinet here, drops into a shower pan right here that actually has a toilet in it that's there if you need it. And so it's been amazing. Then, of course, the bed in the back, it's a Murphy bed it's actually, with a little bit of modification, has been one of my favorite places to sleep in all the world. The thing is awesome. But one thing I wanted to mention before we get into the podcast is that imagine the complexity in connecting all the systems inside of this vehicle together. Imagining what the electrical, the plumbing, the motor, all of it together into the Mercedes product and the Sprinter van, what it means to connect those things together. That functional, what we would describe as the visible pieces of this functioning system, are absolutely critical. But one thing that people did not warn me about, because by the way, this also requires maintenance. There are times when I've had to learn things about when you're driving around water and power and a motor and all these things, you're going to have to fix certain things. You're going to have to do that, just like the rest of life. But what I wasn't prepared for is the amount of conversations that my wife and I would need to have about how we function inside of this incredible machine. How do we even pass each other? How do we know who does dishes? Like, in this new system of life that we had done. And now I want you to imagine those same kinds of conversations that would occur with every person and every team who actually put this thing together. It's one thing to think about the operational system inside of a van, or by the way, inside of your organization. Those things are what we describe as the visible pieces of what we do. But equal emphasis and so critical on something related to trust. Trust between people who would actually have to have some difficult conversations around how you actually build a machine like this. And so I'm so excited to have this conversation with Jeffrey Hunter today about vans, about life, about organizations, and about trust.
Let's get this wild conversation going. Welcome to the Wild Conversation, where human being and human doing converge, reshaping the world of leadership, culture, and performance. Today's guest isn't just leading a company, he's leading a movement. We get to have a wild conversation with Jeffrey Hunter. Jeffrey is the founder and CEO of Storyteller Overland, the fastest growing adventure vehicle brand in America. Since launching in 2018, he, along with his co-founders, have built Storyteller into a coveted lifestyle company, one that combines high-end expedition vans with a mission to inspire people to live free, explore endlessly, and tell better stories. Under his leadership, Storyteller quickly became the largest privately held adventure vehicle maker worldwide, expanding through smart growth, acquisitions, and a commitment to quality and community. It's not just about building cooler vans, it's about creating belonging. Jeffrey often describes himself as a daydreamer with a plan, brand builder with a purpose, and storyteller with a passion. Whether you're dreaming of life on the road, building culture in your business, or curious what happens when purpose meets execution, stay tuned because this next 60 minutes is for you. Jeffrey, welcome to the Wild Conversation.
Oh my goodness. So glad to be here. And that's the best hype man thing I've ever heard. That's amazing.
We'll take it on the road.
That's a lot to live up to. Let's go.
We are going to play a quick round of wild cards before we jump into this wild conversation. We have a deck of 52, someone counted. I just pulled out 10 and I don't know which 10 they are, but each has a different question on it. And we'll just pick a number between 1 and 10 and each answer a different question. From our gut, you can answer in one word or you can tell a story if something comes to mind. So
It sounds terrifying.
It's going to be wonderful.
Let's do it.
All right, I'll go first, and then Jeffrey, you can go, and Rob will round us out. I'm going to choose number 4 today. Number 4 is, what would change if you communicated more clearly and listened more effectively? I would say my husband would appreciate me a little bit more if I communicated more effectively and communicated clearly and listened more effectively. I'm working on that still, day by day, after 15 years. All right, Jeffrey, pick a number between 1 and 10.
Oh, how about 7? Let's go 7.
Okay. Number 7 is, what do you feel called to sacrifice today that may serve others?
Oh, wow. Can I choose number 4 instead?
Yep. I'll give you, number 4. That was mine. I didn't get it. Do you want number 4? You're welcome to.
Yeah. What do I feel compelled to sacrifice today? What's part of the question?
Yeah. That may serve others.
Wow. Okay. We're going deep right off the bat. But how about my ego and selfish need to be right when others have the better solution and the right answer and deserve the space?
So good. That's
I don't relate to that at all. I'm kidding. I relate to that deeply. All right. Was 9 taken?
Not yet.
Okay, it is now.
Okay. Number 9 is, are you more focused on urgency or patience today?
Golly, this question is so relevant. Being patient and present within the urgency. I think that the paradox of that is like where I feel like I'm living right now. is like the pressure on results. They're not like bad pressure. It's just there's urgency that's important missionally for us. And at the same time, I would like to be patient and present in the middle of all that. So I'm going to cheat the question a little bit.
We'll allow it.
Yeah. Sab, thank you for
Good.
kicking us off.
Good.
What a great start. Jeffrey, I am just truly humbled to have this conversation with you. And it's just amazing when you own a product like a Storyteller, something that was a big important decision for my wife and me, and then to be able to talk to you is just it's so cool. And I got to ask you, so I just want to start off like what is going on in the life and work of Jeffrey Hunter today?
Everything all at once in every direction all the time without end, all of that. But yeah, there's a whole lot going on right now. But just to go back to what you said, I think it's exactly the opposite without any false humility or self-deprecation here. The fact that you'd invite me to join you in this conversation is awesome. The fact that you saw the value in holding something like a Storyteller when you had a world full of other options, all of that's amazing. So the fact is, like, I'm pretty stoked to get to, and I'm always stoked to get to talk to the folks who give us the right and the opportunity to keep doing what I believe we're good at by choosing Team Storyteller and riding for the brand and
Yeah,
trusting us with their time, talent, and treasure like that. That's a big deal.
that's amazing.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So one thing I want to tell you is so I'm an off-road guy. I like to travel off-road. As I've mentioned, I'm a truck guy, so I've always done that and had a recent trip in our Storyteller. And I have a ton of confidence in myself off-road, way more than I should. And I'm had my sons who are in their 20s and my wife, and we're driving up a fire road that I'm having to move rocks to keep going up this road. And I look in the back at my sons sitting in the groove lounge, and they're both like, what are we doing? And I was like, I'm just like going up the road. We're locked into four-wheel drive. And then I made the mistake of trying to drive under a tree that was across the road and actually didn't do any damage. And I'm like, I should turn around. Didn't realize because I'd never driven a 10,000-pound vehicle down a road like that. I'm like, this would slide a lot faster than my truck would have. I don't know why I'm telling you that. I'm just like, it's the most amazing vehicle to go the places I want to go. And then I also am like, I need to be mindful of those things. I would love to know. I don't know how this is a segue, Jeffrey, but I just would love to know, and for our listeners to hear the journey of how you got here. Like, how did you arrive at here? I'd love a little background story of where this all came from.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that story is long with a lot of side quests and detours, and it's fairly meandering, but I'll try to pare it down and edit it as best I can. But yeah, super long story short, we've been in the second stage automotive world for probably 15 years or so, done that at a high level. My previous partnership that I was involved in was more on the luxury, more upscale kind of mobile office, luxury coach type of, all the way up through dignitary travel and up armored dignitary transportation for presidencies and heads of state and all of that. Obviously, we got to be connected to some of the most fascinating people on the planet, super elite clientele. That whole business grew by word of mouth in a very kind of way, and it was amazing. It was super successful, but I don't necessarily know that the whole time I felt that it was like truly deeply satisfying, because in that I had great partners and they were carrying the larger aspect of the business in a different direction. And so when there was a moment where when private equity came knocking, they took the journey on with the crew and ultimately maintained that business in a very successful way. But it was just this perfect kind of fork in the road where I had already been becoming like deeply curious and aware of what was going on in this van life and overlanding space that seemed like this underserved community with unmet needs, and everybody was having to custom one off their vehicle or build it in their garage on the weekends and get YouTube certified and go to Facebook University to figure out how to do all these things in their own time. And it was this very DIY driven thing. Or on the other end, it was this very elitist kind of big ticket item that you had to go to a custom builder or coach builder or whatever to try to get your ideas translated. And sometimes you didn't really know what you wanted. You were just kind of like figuring it out, making it all up. And you had to trust somebody else, that whoever was taking your money was actually going to be able to distill your vision and turn it into something that was going to be great for you and live up to your hopes and dreams. So we just saw this really fragmented space that could benefit from what we knew about high quality, scalable series production that was tested and vetted and validated and well designed and well engineered and all of these kinds of things, and that was compliant with DOT and its regulations and all the stuff that a lot of other folks just weren't even thinking about when they were looking on Instagram and saying, oh, hashtag Vanlife. Oh, that cool van, bro. That looks awesome. And there were a lot of things that were being done that looked outrageously cool in pictures, but were not only not fit for the rigors, but they were potentially quite dangerous. And some poor decisions were being made with material selection and just the whole construction of the vehicle. So we just wanted to bring a higher sense of calm and confidence to where we wanted to be able to answer like the van side of the equation and the adventure rig side of the equation, so that somebody else could focus on the life aspects of van life, and just have a higher degree of confidence that what we were doing was turnkey, ready to go, fit for the riggers. And not only was it thoughtful with its product design and its quality and craftsmanship, but it was also thoughtful in how it was being delivered to the world, RVIA certified, able to finance it for longer terms, easier to insure, and everything about it was designed for serviceability. So we just thought that all of these things that people weren't necessarily thinking of when they were like scrolling through and just doing the hashtag van life discovery process, we wanted to think about those things and excel in those things and deliver on those things in a really high level way, confidence building way, so that other people didn't have to stress out about that stuff. And thankfully, we came to the market largely at the most cosmically aligned, perfect time in the history of forever. And so we had the right team. We had a lot of really great ideas that the market validated and thought were a smart fit. But we also got extra credit on the test because we came to the world and went live in the world at a time where, just immediately prior to the pandemic. And so we had our foundation built and we were beginning to distribute product in the wild right before everything that we were building not only was still desirable, but it became needful and necessary in a world where people were being forced to socially distance and they were being forced to just safely and work remotely and all that. That just led to a whole lot of opportunity. And if you talk about product market fit, that was the lock-in moment where we were relevant to an even broader segment of the population than maybe we originally thought. And it's worked out great. And the thing that delivered on was the thing that we were most passionate about from the very get-go, that the van or the vehicle or the rig or the gear, that's what you were buying. But what you were really buying into was this circle of trust and this community and this team and this broader family of folks who were riding for the brand that just had your back. If you came to the edge of your map and needed to figure out how to keep going, there was this whole built-in family and community that was just riding with you and standing behind you and giving you the confidence to go and do and be and become and explore further. That's still a long story, but that's how we wound up where we are.
Yeah. And it's for people that don't know this community, the ecosystem around Storyteller is powerful. Like, it's true. You can, as a part of that community, you get any question answered quick. And it's amazing what you just described is just a reality. One of the things I'm curious about is that people may not understand is that the storytellers have this word attached to them, mode. And one thing I loved about that was, I'm notorious, I know my team would say this, for loving the idea of killing two birds or more with one stone. And I had a member of our team was a big bird lover, so I had to change it to feeding two birds with one scone. And so with the thing about these vans that also is incredible is that most things in them, I hope I'm saying this correctly, they serve multiple functions. So I'm curious about, what are things about you that you obsess about that have affected the way Storyteller has shaped products? Is that like the concept of multiple function? Is that just a thing, or is that you? What are some of those things in the early days that shaped the way? Because you just mentioned a lot of things are so critical.
Philosophically, the whole company exists probably because I is maybe a stand-in persona for the folks that we believe that we might be in communication with ultimately. Like I was in a moment where I was trying to give myself permission to lead this more adventurous life. I was in this mode, like with a previous partnership where it was successful, but not particularly satisfying because it just felt like there were certain things about the broader purpose that I felt like we could resonate on and serve. And it was this outbound journey of the business, but it was this inward expedition over like where I was in my life and what I was trying to do. And also when we approached those things, like you mentioned, like the fact that we called it the mode. Like this was, and that was very intentional and purposeful and probably revelatory over what I was looking for in my mind. Like to our way of thinking, that life's greatest luxury wasn't like some conspicuous consumption item you could buy. It was being able to say yes to the next grand adventure, like being in a position to do the things that you were dreaming of and not just having the things or collecting the things. So the mode was very intentionally not intended to become this bit of social plumage or conspicuous consumption. It's not the thing. It's how you go do the things. It's literally the vehicle of how you access and connect with the people and the places and the passions that are driving you. So that was like where that whole kind of branded notion came from. And I think that probably was, and I'm probably about to turn this into a therapy session, but I think that probably was something that was going on in my life at the time that I was looking to solve for. And it turned out into a product that we were able to share and kind of speak to that same level of mental unlock that other folks were trying to find. And again, it really is such a shared language where people are trying to find things that they can trust and have confidence in, and people that they can connect with to help them unlock the person that they're wanting to go and do and be and become. And we just as a brand wanted to represent that, and we wanted all of our products to exemplify that in every way that we were expressing a product. So it wasn't just the overall van or the mode at the time, but it was all the little things that we were solving for on the interior. Like, how do you give somebody the most agency over their space and be able to, in a tight space, like you were mentioning, every surface has to have a purpose, and you have to be very thoughtful on how it can serve multiple needs, even though it's just one singular item. And it needed to be able to do that in a clever, thoughtful, intuitive way that didn't feel gimmicky or cheesy or clunky like most of the RV space had a history of doing. So all of that was true at the same time. So it was this swirling thing of what was happening in my life personally, and then how that got expressed with there's a little bit of this like ultimate solve that the vehicle had to be so simple and so intuitive that somebody like me would be confident in being able to touch the buttons and use all the systems and not feel like I was going to break it, because I don't come to this as the world's most interesting person or just the most adventurous person on the planet. So I needed it to be able to speak to somebody who was in my condition, who hadn't been doing this their whole life, but wanted to and was choosing to.
It's, oh man, when you're talking about this, one of the things when I look at my van, and before you and I had a chance to meet, I wanted to ask you this question, or just make the statement, I guess, is the one thing that does fascinate me, because I am a person who, like most of our listeners knows, connects systems to people. what kind of is amazing is how many things that are so right about our 2021 stealth. And I'm thinking out of the gate, like, you know what I mean? When it's in those initial years, I expect, like, even in the products that we produce, so there's going to be some things we're going to be working on and adjusting. And I know that's a reality, of course, but it's incredible all the things that you got right. Everything from the amount of sound that comes out of the van when it's driving down the road, or the functionality of the bed, or even that groove lounge. People who don't own a Storyteller don't know what I'm talking about, but you've got a back seat that will turn into, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but 4 or 5 other possibilities at least. And that's pretty amazing. And I'm, of course, as an owner, I'm so grateful for that. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is I'm obsessive about this necessity for people paying attention to systems and operations. And that's why I mentioned the structure of the van, but also being attentive to the human beings who will use it and the human beings who put together, where the flesh meets the machine, if you will. And we talk about that trust being at the core of that conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about, especially because your brand is built on the idea of freedom and story, but then freedom doesn't always come without trust. Like, it's what role has trust played in building the culture at Storyteller Overland?
Trust has to be the governing physics of everything, really, if it's going to endure and if it's going to be fit for the rigors, whether that's the vehicle or it's the organization that's standing behind the vehicle. Some of the things just internally and culturally that we would say as core doctrine is you have to earn trust. You have to.
Building trust in your business starts with being able to measure it so that you can create a pathway for change. Our Wild Trust Index measures the drivers of trust at the personal, team, and organizational levels. We are building the largest database on the drivers of trust inside of organizations. This survey will inform growth imperatives and the necessary organizational change needed to fuel that growth. For more information, visit wildleaders.org, click on the Wild Trust platform, and get started with the Wild Trust Index today.
Inspire confidence, and you have to reward loyalty. And we've tried to, from day one, as this grand experiment that is Storyteller, exemplify all of those as the values system and the value structure of the business. Because when you have a really curious and creative team that comes from an almost infinite variety of diverse backgrounds and on-ramps, like the things that hold you together are the values that you hold dear and hold in common. And that becomes the common language that unifies you through all the other things that might be vastly or radically different. This person lives and loves that way, and this person votes this way, or what, all these different things that are just a part of the full human spectrum and the things that make us unique and diverse and individual. All of that's still hyper true. It's hyper true in our team. It's hyper true in our community, but at the core, there has to be something that you share, and just the authenticity and the integrity and the commitment to quality and craftsmanship and joy and discovery and just innovation and all these kinds of things that just were at the heart of what we wanted to not only achieve, but achieve together in a way that honored everybody's contribution all along. Those were things that just were deeply intentional very early on, and we've tried to adhere to, like, day after day ever since. I could give you a million specific examples of how we knew that was actually resonating in the business, and that it wasn't just something that we hung on the wall like wallpaper, but that it was like actually inscribed up on the hearts and souls and hearts and minds of the team that was standing behind it. Like there are some pretty cool kind of milestone examples along the way, but it's trust is at the core of all of that. Trusting that, how would I say it? Even as we've designed the team and we've been intentional and thoughtful about who we recruit and how we fill in gaps, but it's not just from a standpoint of when somebody's coming on board, do they fill a gap or meet a need that Storyteller has, but does that get reciprocated? Not just is somebody a good fit or a smart match for Storyteller, but are we really a good fit or a smart match for this person or for what they're sharing, their goals are, the trajectory they're on, or what have you. And if those two things line up and there's just that magical connection, then yeah, you become a part of the team and you grow throughout the organization. But what we love is seeing that get expressed with this sense of equal parts, like diversity and all of the uniqueness that each individual brings to that composite, but the way it creates unity and harmony in all the ways that matter because of those like shared values and the sense of trust that we try to exemplify with the team. So I know that's a rambling answer, but that's just, those are the things that we deal with on the line level and street level here every day. Cause that has to foundationally and fundamentally be true matter over time.
We don't build trust by pretending to be whole. We build it by becoming whole, making an intentional investment in developing whole leaders and measuring a wild trust, a kind of trust between each other that is our deepest aspiration, that fulfills our wildest needs and expectations. That is at the core of this book, Whole Leaders, Wild Trust. This isn't a book about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about the courage it takes to show up, to lead not just with strategy, but with soul. Because in today's world, trust isn't a luxury, it's a requirement.
Pre-order your copy of Whole Leaders Wild Trust today. And for bulk book package deals, email us at contact@wildleaders.org for more information about ways to partner with Dr. McKenna to bring wild trust to your team, your organization, or your next keynote event.
I know you had a chance to read through our State of Trust at Work report, and I'm curious about some of the things that may have stood out to you. Is there anything that surprised you or affirmed something you already knew or was like counterintuitive? What are some of the things you saw in that research that stood out?
Yeah, it's a great study. And I appreciate the way y'all compiled that, how y'all make that available, because there are some learnings in there that if they're not shocking, they should be. Like, it is crazy to know and to see from like the deep work and the study that y'all have done, how many people are being expected to perform at peak performance, do their best work and be thoughtful and creative and effective in their work in an environment where there is a lack of trust. When somebody is responding to your survey and saying, hey, we're in this jungle situation over here, and it's either trust my manager but not my team, or I trust the team but not the process. And so having those things misaligned, it's hard to imagine that the best work can be done consistently over time with the best outcome. But in most organizations, according to your own study, like that's precisely what we're asking of people on a daily basis.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, it was like 50% of people are functioning in a jungle of trust. It's a high percentage. And to your point, it's how in the world do we expect people to not only perform, but just be well when they don't trust their team members and they don't have trust in their organizations? I was shocked when I saw the data as well. One of the things I've not been to your headquarters yet, but I have this assumption in kind of the way I see things occurring from a distance at Storyteller is that there is that sense of a very strong culture that values the human beings who are there, and they own the adventure and the vision and the purpose in each person, and also the process and the systems it takes and the control systems and the accountability it takes to actually build something to a level of quality like you do. What are some of the things, are there specific things that you have intentionally done as you have scaled to maintain that trust between the people in the business? What are some of the practices that you put in place as you've scaled?
Question, and the answer is yes. We've tried to be intentional from the early days all the way through to where we are now. Because I would say it this way, we started this business with a really great launch and leadership team of folks who had on some level tasted a fairly high level of success in some of their entrepreneurial endeavors. So there was kind of form and structure and history to knowing what success could, should, and would look like if you do a handful of the right things consistently. But we had also experienced the punch in the face and the failure and the unmet expectations and the things that went awry. So it wasn't just, we were a startup, but it wasn't totally from the ground up. There was a lot of kind of baked in leveraged intelligence and experience from previous businesses, organizations. So very early on, Storyteller benefited from being this kind of living organization that was based upon some of those successes and failures of times past. So I got to leverage some of those learnings, and a lot of us showed up to doing this work with the notion of, if we ever have the chance to do it right again, here's how we might approach this differently.
Yeah.
So from day one, we did all of that, and it grew pretty fast. But as you can imagine, when it was up and to the right for a season, and all of a sudden you're this 9-figure company, and you're going fast and you're going strong, and you got thousands of vehicles out on the road, and that you do have to start to put different processes and different types of form and structure in place, so that all of those things that felt like good vibes early on, when you got so much credit early on because everything's fresh and new and passionate and energetic and all these kinds of things. We kind of went through several years ago when we had kind of reached this up and to the right point, and the world was changing and the economy was changing. We did some deep work to make sure that we called it, how do you quantify the vibe? If the vibe was good and the vibe,
oh man, that is good. How do you quantify the vibe?
Yeah, like how do you measure, what's a metric that you can apply
So good
to some of those like squishier things that feel subjective? But when we were getting like, what is the vibe? The vibe is that people know us and they trust us and they believe and they have confidence that by and large everything is going to go right. But when something goes wrong, that we have plans and resources in place to be able to meet them where they are and service them, and to get them back on the road from a product standpoint. And internally with the organization, we were moving fast in all directions of design and engineering. And so at that point, we were not only pioneering new products and developing new things, but we were continuously improving legacy product lines. So you're caught in this weird tension. And there were some areas where we needed to level up and hire up. And so we intentionally recruited folks who had been higher up the mountain and served in different types of organizations and had seen farther over the horizon to come bring that magic to Storyteller and help us to mature in all the right ways without sacrificing the vibe and becoming some soul-sucking bureaucracy in the process. And so that's where it really became this intentional thing of, like we were saying earlier, not just are you a good fit to solve a problem we have, but are we a good fit to help unlock something in this next level that you're trying to get to? And just providentially, we found all the right leaders to plug in for some of the gaps that we had. And it hasn't been a perfect journey, and we haven't got it all right. And we've had eras where we botched communication internally and externally, and we just had to like rapidly learn and grow and improve through all of that, and try our best not to repeat those same things too many times. But yeah, it's just, we have absolutely been in the process of doing that work of trying to figure out how to quantify the vibe. And it's still this ongoing work of like, how do you make it so that the vibes are still good, the systems still work, the people are still happy and feeling like their best days are ahead of them, not behind them. And what does it take to make that structurally, endemically, consistently true?
I love that. So our tagline on our website is leadership equals trust. Now you can measure it. Now you can build it. And the way you said that, and I think I actually wrote a piece about this recently related to the vibe, but how do you quantify the vibe? I think is so critical for our listeners to hear, because there are so many people who would relate to your scaling opportunity and challenges. How do you quantify, like, how do you be intentional about that feeling? That's a real thing that you have to have in your business. Is so good. Man, that's powerful stuff.
When you realize there is a certain physics to it and a center of gravity around it, then you realize, what happens when those things interact, and you realize what happens when they don't. So the truer you are to the physics of trust and the physics of whatever the vibe is, that better things tend to behave over time. And that kind of becomes, when you find the right ways to measure that, you realize that if it's not firing on the right cylinders, it's because there's some value that you said that was core to who you were that you're out of tune with. And when we realize that we're straying in one direction, or people feel like they're not being communicated with, or there's confusion in the ranks, inevitably it's because there's some way that we were moving fast or taking things for granted in the wrong way, and not going back and staying true to the things that we said that we would hold as self-evident no matter what on our value structure. And so it's just this way that we hold ourselves accountable to the things that we said that we were going to be when we grow up, or what people should deserve to expect from us as the brand and the team that stands behind the product that they buy.
So that last statement is powerful, and it is a shameless pitch for what Wild Leaders does. And one of the things that I hear from CEOs all the time is this realization when they hear me talk about this, that you can measure that vibe, that trust is more than a feeling. And this is so critical to hear, that we do treat it like vapor. We treat it like oxygen. We know we have to have it, but we reach out to grab it. It feels like it disappears in our hands, especially as we're growing and scaling and dealing with growth challenges. And we know we have to have it. And I'm telling you, you can measure trust. And trust is the fuel for that vibe that Jeffrey's talking about. And that's a big aha. And you don't get it by asking about trust. You get it by thinking about a bunch of other structural things that create the conditions for trust to occur, not only at the organizational level, but within teams, so they'll be more truthful with each other. And that's why I always connect it also, Jeffrey, to individual development. Like we always say, it starts with the one. So that's where developing leader capacity and investing in people's development. And we know what to do there. We've got some incredible 100 years of research on like, how do you develop people, that we don't always apply that well. But when you do that, it increases their own sense of efficacy and confidence, and also self-awareness, so that they come into conversations more truthfully about, here's what I'm good at, and here's what I'm not, as an example. Or here's where I'm going. This is the real purpose that's driving me. This is what motivates me. And when teams begin to share that, things start to change. And so I so appreciate that. It's like that you can quantify the vibe. And I love it that you're also expressing that this is something that you have to keep working at. It's something that has to be maintained. Imagine there's something else you might say about that. So go there, because I do have one final question. If there's anything else that you want to say about.
What I would say is that any relationship, there's no relationship on the planet that's one and done. Like you have to continue to do the work. You have to continue to allow every party to grow and evolve and become. And that's true of leaders. It's true of everybody throughout an organization. And yeah, but what I'm really convinced of is I'm sold. We need to get Wild to come and grade the work that we've been doing and help us to unlock the gaps that we might yet have, because I'm sure there are many and legion. And yeah, so that'd be really cool to
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
So tell us, one last thing is, where is the business missionally going next? I pay attention, and there's some incredible machines coming out, life-giving adventure machines. So like, where's the business going next? Give us a little bit of a snapshot.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate that question. And I appreciate that it is tied to the word of mission, because I think the mission that Storyteller is ultimately on, because it transcends this notion of product, and it's really more about the state of mind and the way of life and the mode of being that rests at this like core and passion and this kind of unction that's compelling people forward. But I feel like what Storyteller is ultimately at war against and on a mission to help to transcend is the effects of a broken timeline. It's just when people find themselves at this fork in the road and they're deciding to do or be or become that more adventurous version of themselves, as opposed to just shrink back in the cubicle and say that's for a later time under better circumstances, or when the perfect thing happens, then I'm going to go or do or become that thing. And when you shrink back and you say no, then you break your timeline. You don't give yourself the opportunity to take that next step forward and become that next better version of yourself, as the cliche goes. That not only, because that if you just stop there, it feels selfish, But what that does, like, we all look around and take notice of the people who are taking that next step and giving the people who follow behind them and who might have eyes on them looking to see if they can do it, I can do it. And
Yeah.
so I think we're just trying to unlock that inner hero of the hero's journey and help people have the confidence to take the next step and to not keep breaking their timeline for the person that they could become, or just the things that they might yet experience, and this whole new version of themselves that embraces just the world entire. And just, yeah. So I think missionally, we're trying to make that easier and more accessible and in reach to the broadest spectrum of people that we could possibly reach with that message, without trying to be all things to everyone, because we're not a smart fit for everybody. There are other folks,
Right.
God forbid I say this out loud, there are other manufacturers out there who do similar things to what we do, who might be a better fit for some folks out there. But for the ones, we would say it this way: if the Storyteller is going to continue to be the best team, making the greatest gear for the coolest community to do the raddest stuff. And if that's not you, keep scrolling. That's where we live. That's the mission we're on.
That is awesome. I'm excited for our community to across the storyteller ecosystem and far beyond to hear that. It's just, I'm so grateful for that and for this conversation, Jeffrey. It's awesome.
It's awesome to get to have this conversation. Thank you for the invites. You mentioned that you had not yet been to our intergalactic headquarters down here. Well, you and Sab are welcome here anytime.
Awesome.
Look forward to hosting you here. It's gonna be cool when that day comes. But
Right
this is
on.
rad. This is great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what a rich conversation. And truly, I hear the live free, explore endlessly, tell better stories in all that you've shared. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Jeffrey, before you go, we want the people listening or watching to know what is the best way to connect with you or with Storyteller. I heard at one point everybody could have your cell phone number. I don't know if you're giving that out today, but how do you want people to connect with Storyteller? What's the best entry point in?
I feel like my wife, Lisa, who, if she's listening to this, would cringe knowing that I would likely give my cell phone number to everybody.
Oh no, I just heard that somewhere. That's not happening. Yeah.
But absolutely the best way to get connected. We're of the mindset that you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to be there. So we constantly immerse ourselves out in the highways and byways and all of these great overland expos, and just there are a lot of places that we show up, and you can find that calendar of events and that tour schedule on our website at storytelleroverland.com. But for more discreet focused communication, if you can't take a road trip to come see us at one of those events, I do happy to give out an email address that's just simply jeffrey@storytelleroverland.com. Expect a little lag time there, because I am not the world's best steward of instantly responding to emails. But if there's anybody that wants to connect, those are two good ways to do it. But hopefully we'll see some shiny new faces who became aware of us as a result of this podcast out at one of the future events.
Love it. Would love that. All right, Jeffrey, one last wild question. Are you in a season of accepting yourself or changing yourself?
I am in a season of accepting that I need to change myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Rob's answer where you got to do the mashup, but
Yeah.
I think if we devote a lot of time to continuous improvement on our products, and I've realized here recently, as I add a few years of age and a few pounds to myself, that I need to be focused on continuous improvement for Jeffrey, not just in like selfish vanity metrics that I want to lose weight and gain muscle and do all this stuff, but just the way I show up and focus my time to be more present with my family and my loved ones, and support this beautiful community that has evolved around the team and the brand. Yeah, I am in a definite season of aggressive, active, willful change, and hopefully in a better direction.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Stay wild.
Good.
This is great.
Thank you for listening to this Wild Conversation podcast. For more information, visit wildleaders.org, click on the Wild Trust platform, and get started with the Wild Trust Index today.